Join us as we track the development of children from birth to the school gate. The journey from Nought to 5. You can expect a lot of noise, questions and physical activity from 2-year-olds. This is the stage children assert their newfound independence and delight in newly acquired skills. Welcome to the Terrific Twos. Sisters Okalani, just 2, and Gabriel, almost 3, along with Callum, 2.5, are all testing the boundaries to find out more about their rapidly expanding world. To find out more about this age and stage, Joe's going to spend some time with their families. 2-year-olds are becoming more interested in what's going on beyond their front gate. They're better at remembering people and places. Toilet training is beginning. They have definite likes and dislikes, can be bossy, jealous, and are ready to fight for toys and attention. They enjoy craft activities as well as the great outdoors. This age requires routines and clear boundaries to help both parents and children. First up are parents Ellen, an occupational therapist, and Stu, a software developer, who've become very aware of 2.5-year-old Callum's determination to do things for himself.
Some of the stuff that we're enjoying at the moment is that independent stuff. Like he's really keen to help out around the house with things. He's very keen to make his way through a project by himself, like start something and finish it himself, and he's often saying, "No, mummy, no, don't help me," which is kind of nice but can be a bit troublesome as well.
How do you handle those no's?
Instead of saying, no, you can't do this, we just generally give him options, don't we, and try and pick, get him to choose what to do. And sort of trying to direct where he's going subtly. Because if you're too heavy-handed, he certainly notices.
And distraction, lots of distraction. So if he's heading off in a direction we don't want him to go in, then we tend to kind of pull him around with more options or something else to do, or, hey, look at this thing over here.
While distractions and options can prevent tantrums, it's also good to give children the opportunity to release pent-up emotions.
Goodness me, it looks like you're feeling angry. Can you show me your angry face? What are we going to do with that anger? Should we do some stomping?
Yeah.
You stomp your feet as hard as you can. Stamp, 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 stamp.
Jumping!
Jumping! I personally find it really difficult out in public.
Right.
Dealing with some of his behaviour, especially if we've been somewhere where he's having lots of fun and it's time to go and he doesn't understand that it's dinner time or that mummy has to put dinner on or anything like that. He wants to stay there, and so a couple of times I've been hit in the face, and I find that really hard to deal with, like to know what to do.
One of the things that I found really useful is to take a little positive reinforcer with you, like a stamp in your handbag or in your pocket. Put a stamp on his hand every 10 or 15 minutes when you've had an incident-free time. Hey, here's a stamp. When you get 4 of these, and he comes home looking like the tattooed man, you're going to get
a certain reward. Yeah. I like that.
An extra story, or you can help to do this, that or the other. And so you're positively reinforcing what you want as opposed to focusing on what you don't want. Because when you focus on what you don't want, that's generally what you get.
And it spirals so easily out of control when we focus on things. Like it just feels like it doesn't stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Callum is a good eater. However, he's not so keen to sit at the table.
Sitting at the table for dinner is a nightmare. He constantly wants to change seats or get down, and we like to have a policy in our family of sitting down to eat. It doesn't matter during the day where he sits, as long as he sits down to eat because it's safe. But sitting at the table at dinner is a requirement in our family.
Okay.
He does not want to do it.
No. So he hasn't bought into this policy?
No, definitely not.
So that's what you want to impress upon him. This is our neat family time, and we talk about what's the best thing that happened in your day today, Callum.
Do you like going to the park? Yeah, what do you like doing at the park?
I like running around.
Got some cheese in your dinner?
It's also a really neat time to come together. It could be you're having a restaurant night tonight and he gets to be the waiter or he gets to choose the menu. And so then you're channeling that behaviour in a way that's appropriate, and it's imaginative, which is hugely appealing to his developmental level at the moment.
Are you going to come back and join us at the table?
No.
Oh, while you're down there, can you be the waiter and go and get us some cheese? Wait, I'd like some cheese out of the fridge, please. You go and get the cheese out of the fridge for me. Thank you.
Oh, cut the cheese.
What other things have you noticed about his lovely independence and the changes that are occurring?
He loves to throw things anywhere, everywhere, all the time, inside, outside, anywhere. Are you supposed to throw that ball inside?
Yeah.
No. We've kind of tried to have a rule of not throwing inside, but it's not easy.
That is a tough one. What's your consequence for your policy or rule of no throwing inside?
He loses the thing he's throwing. Sometimes just redirection, and he's allowed to throw anything he likes out in the garden or down at the park or whatever he wants.
How about how you enforce what you want him to do inside? So what things is he allowed to do with that throwing?
He's allowed to throw a balloon and play with the balloon inside.
So it's not something so much about discipline, it's more about redirection and reminding him of what he does, which you're doing, and doing well by the sound of it. Again, we're encouraging the behaviour that we want rather than discouraging the behaviour we don't want.
Although 2-year-olds are all about becoming independent, there are some things they're just not ready to let go.
He still has a bottle at night before he goes to bed, a bottle of milk, which we'd be keen to drop at some point, but he's not ready to do that yet, so...
What is it about that you're keen to drop it?
I don't think he needs it.
Is the bottle a deal to the three of you, or is it something that's okay? Because at this age they've gone from being completely dependent on you in the first year of life pretty much, and having that strong sense of attachment, to kind of pulling that cord a little bit and becoming really independent. But it's nice to have some connections to that really strong attachment. To me, it seems a real shame to disconnect that quickly, because it won't be long and he won't be wanting to do that.
So take time to treasure and enjoy the terrific twos.
Wait, what?
Goodbye, everyone.
Did you know that I need to know that my ball is my own before I can share with my friends? If I know it's mine and it stays at our house always, then I don't mind friends playing with it for a little while.
Meet our second family. Max, a musician. Christina, who's full-time at home with the children. 8-month-old Cairo, who's just had a bout of chickenpox. Zoe is 4 years old. And the younger girls who are our focus. Gabriel, almost 3 years old. And Okalani, just 2. Christina and Max don't want to parent their children the way they were raised themselves. They're making conscious parenting choices. And the fighting between Gabriel and Okalani concerns them.
What do you think it is they're trying to get out of fighting?
They're trying to get something that they want.
Right.
Through fighting, which is something that's
So it's
common in PIs.
common in PIs? Can you say a wee bit more about that, Max?
No, just jumping straight to hitting and...
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you both have made a conscious choice to have a no-hitting policy in your home?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah?
Just growing up, just part of my upbringing. It's something that I actually don't want to see my kids.
It just gets quite frustrating when they're around other children who are Pacific Island.
Right.
And they see them hitting each other, and it's like you can't really go in there and stop them from doing it because they just go back to their own homes and continue. But it's just trying to teach our kids, like, that's not right, don't copy.
So you're seeing that perhaps it's confusing for all your children,
Yes.
in fact?
Oh, absolutely. Because we're trying to make a change. We're trying to, step forward and...
You can't really speak out because who are we, It's like, just watch your own kids and, that's generally the attitude for Pacific Island people. Mind your own business sort of thing. Yeah.
The family are presently living in one room at Christina's parents' home, which is putting them under a lot of stress.
It is quite difficult. And sometimes we sort of let go of all those positive parenting skills
So sometimes it's really frustrating for you.
It is.
And you can see that it's frustrating for your children.
But there are ways for 2-year-olds to channel their frustration without harming anyone.
Giving them words is really, really useful. Distracting them is really, really useful. One of the other things that helps a lot is being able to give them a channel for their frustration. Because, as you said, you don't want them to hit. But when you get, all worked up and frustrated, usually you have to do something physical with that. It's really hard to just sit down and be calm and quiet. Often you want to go and punch something or kick something. So what sort of things could you give them to punch or hit that are going to be safe and acceptable for you as a family?
Pillow.
I have no idea. Is that normal?
Oh, yeah. Is that normal?
It is
okay.
normal.
Yeah.
Because frustration or anger is an emotion, but it often needs a physical outlet.
I didn't actually quite realise that. I thought that was a no-no, to be honest. Yeah.
A no-no to
have a tanty.
Have a tanty and take it out that way.
Well, I reckon it's something we don't even grow out of. When we feel angry, it's really hard to go, oh, I'll just have a cup of tea. Sometimes you want to just kind of go, oh, and when we feel angry with our children, often it's really hard to go, oh, well, never mind. Sometimes you need to just go outside and count to 10 or go and have a shout or,
it is.
do something. It's a really physical emotion, isn't it?
Yeah.
And for them it is too, even more so because they don't have the maturity that we do to have different choices.
I guess because we've been brought up Pacific Island way, whereas you're not allowed to show anger.
Kicking or throwing a ball, punching a pillow, stamping feet, even moulding dough all allow children a positive release for their anger. Christina is relieved to know that the feeling of anger is okay. It's just what you do with it that counts.
It's just opened up my eyes more because it's like, oh wow, I always think Gabby's holding her anger in every now and then.
So if you were to give her ways of dealing with that, how do you think she'd be?
Probably much happier and much more free.
Another concern for Christina and Max is the influence of people in the Pacific Island community belittling their children. And 2-year-olds are good at attracting negative attention.
With name calling, it's quite normal to call a child, or you're stupid, or
you're useless.
Oh yeah, stuff like that. You're dumb. Now Samoan language, and it's something that we totally don't do to our girls, to our kids, and we don't like seeing it being spoken over other kids as well, because it's something that we've both been through.
If you hear it often enough, it's what you become.
Absolutely.
If you hear you're great, you have the potential for greatness.
For sure.
If you hear you're hopeless,
you're going to end up.
You can end up hopeless.
Yeah.
So what would they hear from you that they're going to feel confident and
positive
loved?
Words.
Yeah, like what?
Well done.
Good girl.
Good girl.
I love you.
I'm constantly saying to my girls that I love them and, that I'm all for them.
Joe is keen to compliment Christina and Max on their positive approach to parenting their 4 children.
And are you surprised to realise now what a great job you've been doing?
Yeah.
I think we need to hear that more too, because we are leading them into adulthood, and we would like for them to make the right choices when they get to difficult stages in their life. And
you're the parent of 4 fantastic children.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you have the right to make positive choices for your children and your family. That's who you are. What more do you need?
Pretty much, yeah.
And you have the courage and the faith of your convictions to do what you believe is right. And these are goals that you share as a couple, which make you strong as a couple and even stronger as a family. And I congratulate you for that.
Cheers.
Giving your child lots of opportunities to get the muscles in their fingers working is essential for when they get to school.
Hold it together. See how it goes running? Oh.
Messy play inhibits the palmar reflex, when the hand is in a fist. And until this happens, children can't hold a pencil correctly. Gloop is made by slowly adding 1 cup of cold water to 2 cups of corn flour. Stir until the water is just absorbed.
How does it feel?
And talking about the experience helps their language development.
Very yucky.
Lots of fun to be had here.
If you understand what my temperament is, you might be able to deal with me more easily. And don't forget, I might not be this way forever.
Active movement, making the connection between movement and learning to develop the whole child. 2-year-olds are busy and active. They need space in which to learn new skills and let off steam.
People who have 2-year-olds have to understand that the house has to become a gymnasium. We used to have the quarter-acre section, didn't we, and the big tree to hang on and climb on and do all that kind of stuff. Those things aren't available to a lot of children, so therefore your home environment has to become the gymnasium. Sure, you have to have boundaries, but expect that it's not always going to be, you know, like Home and Garden magazine. It's going to be...
We know about that.
It's going to be a busy place, and that's so important that we do that.
At this age, it's important for children to hang.
The reason they love to hang is because they're developing their upper body strength. In order to develop our fine motor skills, which are our little motor skills, we first need to develop our gross motor skills. So one of the best ways to do that is to hang on bars or climb and swing in the trees.
And a monkey.
Another thing to remember when he's hanging on things is to make sure that he puts the thumb underneath, because that's called what we call the cortical position, and that's a natural position for the thumb to be in when we start to hold and grip pencils. So you're actually preparing the thumb for writing when he's hanging onto those things. Often in gym classes they ask you to teach children to put their thumbs over the top like that, and that's so they don't break their thumbs when they go round and round and round. But when you're hanging, which is probably quite wise to do, the thumb underneath is really important because that teaches the thumb the position that it needs to be.
Apart from hanging, another way of developing upper body strength is for your child to pull themselves along on a skateboard.
All right, and with your hands, pull yourself along. There you go.
Beautiful, beautiful. Up, up. Crash.
Of course. What you can also do is put a bit of rope across here so he can pull himself along, and that's using his upper body strength as well. So he can go forwards and backwards, and then he can lie on his back on the skateboard, pull himself along like that as well.
Like our children playing with the gloop, activities such as finger painting, Play-Doh, baking and playing in the sandpit all encourage the development of fine motor skills. Children need to experience gooey, messy play on a daily basis.
Lean on it, that's it. Squash it down. What shape is that?
It's a hat.
Is it a yummy hat?
What we normally find is that it's little girls who get into this kind of stuff and who have the well-developed fine motor skills when they come to school. The little girls, yeah. It's also the little girls who do all the swinging on the bars and the handstands and the forward rolls and the upper body strength stuff.
So we need to get our boys doing these kinds of activities. Hanging and messy play are important things to encourage our children to experience.
Those 2 areas are foundation skills. You can't build a house without good foundations. And I can't teach a child as a teacher to write unless I've got those foundation skills in place.
I had a question about the fine motor control, because one thing he likes to do as well is we've got a PlayStation, which of course he catches me playing, and he'll have a go with the controllers. I was wondering if you had any opinion about that sort of thing, button pushing and...
Children between the ages of 2 and 17 are now, that's a 15-year age span, are now spending on average 3 years out of 15 in front of screens, which is a huge part of their life. If children spend a lot of time in front of screens, what we find is when they get into school situations where they have to track across the page, their eyes, because they haven't developed eye fitness, which is so important, we forget that eyes need to have exercise, their eyes are quite jerky They can't flick back to the next line because they lose their place. We need children to develop this. We do not need children to develop this. And that's what we call ocular lock, which is locking onto something and not being able to do this.
Playing with hand puppets can exercise the eyes, as can bubbles, balloons and ball play.
Oh, he's going around in circles.
Ready, go. Rim shot.
Whee! I can chuck it.
Yeah, we know you can chuck it. Hey, you got it in.
Here's another example of what happens if I sit in front of screens a whole lot. All the information is coming to them through screens, even in books with lots of pictures. It's also good to read stories without pictures every now and again, and he's just getting to that age where you could say to him, do you think that dog's got fluffy hair, or do you think that dog's got straight hair, and how many spots do you think he's got? And so what you're doing is you're actually stimulating his visualisation, his imagination.
So try and keep the time your child spends in front of a screen, whether it's PlayStation, TV or computer, to a minimum.
What we will stress here is that just don't push your children, just give them all these experiences that way, and that will help develop them holistically, which is what you want to do. You don't want to focus on computer skills or writing or what we perceive as educational learning. You know, they've got 80 years to be intellectuals. Let them be a child.
Yeah.
So what do Ellen and Stu want to do differently now?
Spending more time outside, I think, would be really good. And lots of more crawling around the obstacle course in the living room, and using the skateboard, I think, would be a really good idea too, in a different way.
That's great, because it's important that you understand why you're doing these things and how it's going to help his development. It's probably going to give you more encouragement to want to do these kinds of things if you realise there's a reason developmentally that it's going to help him.
Yeah, no, that's good.